Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Awesome Cook. I'm Jake Sikora, and on this week's episode, I am going to continue to celebrate the fall season with this great recipe that's only 3 smart points per serving. It's Halloween time, so you are probably surrounded with a lot of candies and not so great goodies around, and hopefully this recipe will be something that's easy and healthy to help avoid those unhealthy things that are around you. This is what I'm calling a spaghetti squash Italiano. It's an easy recipe that's only 3 smart points per serving. It's going to serve 2 people, so let's get started. Okay, so here are the ingredients for this recipe. This is a spaghetti squash, and for those of you who haven't seen one, this is what it looks like. I can tell you that I'm not familiar with this squash before I started this weight loss journey, although I know it's a very popular squash out there. I was more familiar with the traditional squashes like butternut, zucchini, eggplant, those types of squashes. We're going to need an onion, some fresh mushrooms, and then we're going to make our own sauce. And so you'll need grape or cherry tomatoes in three of these containers, some garlic, and then basil. It would be great if I had fresh basil, but sometimes I have to do what I have, so I'm using dried basil. So if you have that, that's fine, and if you have fresh, that's great as well. And then we're also going to use salt and pepper to taste. So let's get started with the squash portion of it. Okay, so to get started, we're going to cut the spaghetti squash in half. And so for people who are not familiar with the inside of a spaghetti squash, this is what it's going to look like inside. And you want to scrape out the seeds. It kind of almost looks like, as you're scraping out, it's almost like a pumpkin in that sense. So we want to cook the inside seed part. We want to scrape that out, and it's going to look like so. So I am going to scrape this other one out, and then I'll show you the next step here in a second. Okay, so I have the other one scooped out. The next step, I'm going to use the olive oil cooking spray. Spray that, and then a little salt and pepper. Okay, so now we're going to put this into a 400-degree oven for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll start on the sauce. Okay, so while this is in the oven, the spaghetti squash, we're going to make the sauce. So I already have onions chopped up, and this is our olive oil, tablespoon of olive oil in here. So I chopped up the onion. Next I'm going to put a tablespoon of garlic. Who doesn't like garlic? And we're going to cook these down till they're brown, almost getting brown. The reason why we're doing this is because we want to infuse that oil with the garlic and onions. Now the sauce is super easy to make, and it's a nice option from regular pasta sauce in the jar. It's a lot of pressure. Believe me, I like things quick too, and I am known to use this sauce in the jar. But sometimes you just want something better than that, right? We're going to get this brown. I'm going to come back when it's a little bit browner. Okay, so I'm back. And you can see it's starting to get brown. You don't want it totally brown yet because we have a lot of stuff to put in here. So in this bowl, I cut up the grape tomatoes, and then I used about half of those fresh mushrooms. I'm going to just dump it in here. And then we're going to add the seasonings. So we've got salt, pepper, dried basil. Now here's a tip if you're going to use dried basil compared to fresh basil. While I'm going to give you this tip while I'm removing the cover. Your dried seasonings in general are more potent than fresh. So normally you probably would use about 4 to 5 sprigs of basil, but since this is dried, we're going to use 1 1/2 teaspoons of basil. Again, dried seasonings are more potent, so you want to be careful on this. The last thing that we're going to do is, you might think this is weird, we're going to use a pinch of sugar. And so that's about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Not much, but it cuts the acidity of the tomatoes. So. For those on Weight Watchers, it's not going to be many points for, it's not going to be it's point friendly, the amount of sugar that we're using. So I'm giving this a quick stir. Kind of marinate those seasonings together. Okay, now I'm going to turn this down to a nice simmer and cover it for about 30 to 35 minutes. And you're going to want to occasionally stir it. And then I'll come back when that is completed. Okay, so I'm back. So it's been about a half an hour on the sauce. And I'm going to tell you something, it's amazing. And from what it looked like before, you would never think it's going to make this amazing decadent sauce. And it smells incredible. So I got the spaghetti squash cooling a little bit, and we're going to combine these together in just a second, but I want to show you the squash first, okay? So I have one of the squash already peeled out, so it looks like this. This is why it looks like spaghetti, but it's not, obviously. Let me grab my fork. This is still warm, so I'm going to use the oven mitt still. And all you're going to do is simply scrape the bottom of this. It's been in the oven for 45 minutes. This is how easy it scrapes out. And we scrape this out, and I'm keeping the container once it's empty, it's scraped out in here, and I'll show you why. So I'm gonna scrape the rest of this one, and we'll come back. Okay, so I'm back. So I combined the sauce with the squash, and we're gonna just make a little toss. The funny thing is with spaghetti squash, if you never had it, it has the consistency of spaghetti. So it's pretty amazing. I'm gonna show you with the sauce. Look at that. How amazing. You can totally smell that basil. And here I have the empty squash, and we're just simply going to put this back and serve this as little bowls. So like I said, if you love pasta, love Italian food, this spaghetti squash Italiano is going to be totally up your alley. I'm a big pasta freak, so the discovery of spaghetti squash is amazing. Every bit of that goodness in there. And here's my favorite part. Oops, I'm spilling. I'm so excited. So this is fat-free mozzarella cheese. And you just sprinkle that on top. And this is about a 1/4 cup. So if you have Weight Watchers, you know that that's 0 points there. And then get that off that counter. I have clean counters, don't worry. Okay, and then sprinkle 1/4 cup on here, which I've already measured out, so this is a 1/4 cup. You can put more basil if you like on the top. I'm not. But look at that. How amazing. 1/2 of this is 3 points. 3 points for that amount of spaghetti squash goodness. I'm going to serve this up in just a second and try it out, and I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and I'm going to try this spaghetti squash Italiano with the homemade sauce. Ooh, it's dripping. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. That is wonderful. And I can't even believe, still can't believe, it's only 3 smart points for the 1/2. So if you're a big pasta lover, you're going to love this. It's a great thing for this fall. Also, if you want to stay healthy for this Halloween season, this is a great way to stay on track. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit that red subscribe button. Leave comments as always. Follow me on Weight Watchers Connect. If you're a Weight Watchers member, my username is JASikora1981. That's JASIKORA1981. Until next Monday, stay awesome.